The observation deck of the stellar horizon hummed with the soft vibration of fusion engines, a lullaby that had become familiar to Arya Lorne over the past 6 months. She sat cross-legged on the cushioned bench beneath the panoramic viewport, her datapad forgotten in her loose grip, as exhaustion finally claimed her. Her head tilted back against the cold glass, mouth slightly open, breathing deep and even. The stars beyond stretched into infinite ribbons of light as the ship cruised through slipspace. She didn't notice when the door whispered open. Fenny Moonpaw paused at the threshold, her large amber eyes widening at the sight. The young Velkari cub, barely 3 cycles old by her species' reckoning, clutched her worn comfort blanket to her chest. Her silvery fur rippled with bioluminescent patterns that betrayed her nervousness, soft blues and greens flickering across her small frame. Behind her, 2 other cubs peeked around the doorway. Torin and Vesa, equally small and equally curious. "Is she broken?" Torin whispered, his ear tufts flattening against his head. Fenny shook her head slowly, taking a cautious step forward. "Mother says humans sleep sitting up sometimes, when they're very tired." "That's stupid," Vesa muttered, but her tail betrayed her interest, swishing back and forth. "Why not go to a sleep pod like normal beings?" Fenny didn't answer. She'd been watching Arya Lorne for weeks now, ever since the human had joined the stellar horizon, as the ship's xenobiologist and cultural liaison. The rest of the Velkari crew treated the human with polite distance, respectful but cautious, as was proper when dealing with Deathworlders. But Fenny had seen something the adults missed. She'd seen Arya sitting alone in the mess hall, smiling sadly at her food. She'd seen the human working double shifts when other crew members called in sick, never complaining. She'd watched Arya stop to fix a malfunctioning gravity panel that wasn't even her responsibility, just because no one else had noticed it. And most importantly, Fenny had seen Arya's eyes light up whenever one of the cubs ran past. A look of longing, quickly hidden behind professionalism. The human was lonely. Fenny understood lonely. "I'm going closer," Fenny announced, her small claws clicking softly against the deck plating. "Fenny, no," Vesa hissed. "What if she wakes up? Humans are predators. They come from a Class 12, Death World. So?" Fenny's bioluminescence flared, defiant yellow. "She's never hurt anyone. And she's always nice to us when we see her in the corridors." Before the others could stop her, Fenny padded across the observation deck. Up close, Arya looked different than she did when awake. The tension was gone from her face. The careful mask she wore around the Velkari crew dissolved. She looked younger, vulnerable. Her calloused hands that could supposedly crush Velkari bones with ease, rested gently in her lap, fingers curled like flower petals. Fenny's sensitive nose detected the scent of human exhaustion. Sweat, recycled air, and something else. Something that reminded her of when her own mother worked too hard and forgot to rest. The smell of someone pushing past their limits. The cub made a decision. Using her natural agility, Fenny climbed onto the bench beside Arya, then carefully, so very carefully, stepped onto the human's lap. The fabric of Arya's uniform was rough under her paws, but warm. So warm. Velkari ran cold compared to humans, and the heat radiating from Arya's body was like basking under a sun lamp. Fenny circled once, twice, then settled down, tucking her tail around herself. Arya didn't wake. She shifted slightly, one hand instinctively moving to rest, near Fenny's back, not touching. Just present. Protective. Even in sleep. "See?" Fenny called softly to her friends. "She's safe." That was all the invitation Torin and Vesa needed. Within moments, both cubs had joined Fenny on Arya's lap, arranging themselves like a living blanket of fur and bioluminescence. The combined weight of 3 young Velkari was still less than 15 kilograms. Nothing to a human from a high-gravity world, but enough to anchor Arya in a sleep that had been eluding her for weeks. The cubs began to purr, a subsonic rumble that Velkari used to comfort each other. The sound filled the observation deck like a gentle song. Minutes passed. Then an hour. When Captain Sarath finally came looking for her missing offspring, she found a scene that stopped her in the doorway. The veteran Velkari commander had seen many things in her long career battles. First contacts, cosmic anomalies that defied explanation. But this sight made her breath catch. Arya Lorne, the lone human on a ship of creatures who feared her kind's reputation, slept with 3 cubs piled on her lap. And those cubs, including Sarath's own daughter, slept with the contentment of beings who felt completely, utterly safe. Sarath's second-in-command appeared beside her. "Captain, should we?" "No." Sarath's voice was soft, thoughtful. "Let them sleep. But the human has been working herself to exhaustion trying to prove she's not a threat." Sarath's ear tufts tilted forward, a gesture of realization. "Look at her, Torvik. Really, look. She's barely adult by human standards. Alone. Light years from her homeworld. Surrounded by species that flinch when she enters a room." Torvik fell silent, studying the sleeping human with new eyes. "The cubs chose her." "The cubs," Sarath said slowly, "are wiser than we gave them credit for. They saw what we couldn't or wouldn't. That beneath the Deathworlder strength and Predator heritage, Arya Lorne is just kind." The captain pulled out her datapad and made a note. Tomorrow, there would be changes. The human would be invited to family meals. Introduced properly to the crew's younglings, who had no prejudice against her species, given the companionship she clearly craved but was too proud or too afraid of rejection to ask for. But tonight, Sarath simply dimmed the observation deck's internal lights and posted a "Maintenance in Progress" sign on the door. Inside, beneath the endless stars, a human and 3 Valkyrie cubs slept in a pile of trust that would become legend across the stellar horizon. The story would spread how the fierce Deathworlder had been chosen by the cubs, how she'd passed the most important test not through strength or intimidation, but through the simple act of being someone safe to sleep upon. And when Arya finally woke, confused, and panicked that she'd fallen asleep on duty, she would find Fenny Moonpaw still curled on her lap, looking up with luminous eyes that said everything words couldn't. "You're one of us now. Your pack. Your home. Humanity's reputation would survive." But perhaps, just perhaps, it would grow to include one more quality: the ability to be gentle with those who needed gentleness most, even while asleep, sitting up, beneath the infinite stars.